Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Breber and alongside me is Logan Camden. And today we have lots of great NBA basketball to talk about. We're going to cover all the most important stuff that stood out to us from Wednesday's full slate. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we saw yesterday. And we'll actually start there, Logan, because maybe the biggest storyline out of all of the debuts is that of Damian Lillard with the Milwaukee Bucks. Comes up huge in a win for them over the Sixers to open up the season. What did you take away from his performance and how he looked as a Buck?
I mean, Carson, I couldn't have imagined a better debut for Dame with the Bucks, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he really answers all the problems that I think Milwaukee had last season, and I think that Giannis and him are forming the number one and the number two best duo in all of basketball. They are both top 10 players. And Carson, I am so happy to announce that later in the show I have a segment where I have my complete top 10 mapped out, so we can get into that discussion a little bit. But I do think they have two top 10 players. And again, what happened in the playoffs against Miami, man? Their offense stalled out late in the clutch, couldn't get anything going. Giannis struggles to create from the perimeter and create easy offense by himself. That's not an issue with Dame, and I think you really saw it in the second quarter. He scores or assists on 17 straight points in that stretch. And then when they take him off the floor, immediately it seems like their offense hits a bit of a wall. Like, Dame is this team's best offensive player and best perimeter creator by far, and it's not close. And I think in the clutch, dude, I don't even want Giannis really handling the rock from the perimeter, dude. I want Dame taking almost every possession and starting it out. I mean, again, another stretch in the first half, dude. Giannis is committing really bad turnovers, man. He's missing free throws. There's travels. There are offensive fouls. Like, he's just not a seamless, easy offensive creator. Dame, on the other hand, so valuable. He's one of the best pick-and-roll perimeter scorers in all of basketball. He's still got insane burst. I was really shocked at how fast Dame looked, man. Like, just explosive into the lane. He can shoot from all the angles, from anywhere on the floor, so many times, dude, in this game. I love watching Dame pump fake, get a guy to bite him on some contact, and he still puts it up. And just, I mean, he had a couple, or at least one of them that got called back where it was an and one 4-point play. And he had another one that actually cashed. He's just going to be so beneficial for this team in closing out games when the offense is stalling out and in stretches without Giannis. That's my biggest takeaway. I mean, it's just this offense is going to be so much better with him on the floor, and you see it in Game 1. He is one of the clutchest players and best closers in all of basketball. Dude, that was a butter-smooth behind-the-back crossover step-back that he hit from the deep left wing to help close this one out, man. Dame is just super clutch, and he's exactly what the Bucks needed, man. I couldn't have imagined a better debut for Dame in Milwaukee, and I don't know. It's going to take a lot for me to dethrone the Nuggets as my title favorite, but Milwaukee to me is concretely number 2 right now, or number 1 if you want to make that argument. I think Giannis and Dame are either the best duo in basketball or number 2 behind Murray and Jokic, whoever you prefer.
I think that they are the best duo in basketball, and that's despite the fact that I think Jokic is clearly better than Giannis. It is because of the fact that Dame can be their superhero. Dame is clearly their best offensive player, and in the half court, there are miles and miles between the two, but I think that point got lost a bit in this offseason. The fact that he is their best offensive player, and it's not just that he outproduced Giannis, that he scored more points, averaged more assists, did so more efficiently by true shooting last year. It is how essential his skill set as that highly skilled creator is. When you're talking about an offense that posted an offensive rating of 77 in the clutch in the playoffs last year, that had no direction, that was ugly, that was turnover prone, that was reliant on Giannis forcing the issue in isolation and post-ups where he just couldn't create quality shots, to have a guy who is a big-time isolation shot maker, who can pull the screener up to 30 feet away, where he creates this massive runway for him to attack downhill, or he can walk into these pull-up threes that are like layups for him, and he has high-level playmaking off of all of that defensive attention that he attracts. It completely changes the dynamic, and it fixes in a perfect way what has been the biggest problem for this team, which is average half-court offense overall, and particularly in those big-time situations when the game slows down, when it comes down to my best offensive player against yours, they haven't had that sort of seamless shot creation. Dame did his job perfectly in this game. He completely reshaped the defense, and when it came down to that clutch stretch, he got them a step-back three. He got them 2 free throws when they needed it most. What I need to see is Giannis doing a better job of capitalizing on that. We've talked so much about how unstoppable the Dame Giannis pick and roll should be, where you basically have to make a choice as a defense between conceding a pull-up 3 to Damian Lillard or conceding a 4-on-3 to Giannis, where he's coming downhill as a roller and he's one of the best athletes in the league and a good decision maker with shooting around him. That should be a nightmarish action to defend. I thought Philly did a good job of meeting Giannis immediately off the catch when he was running out of pick and roll, usually with Joel Embiid, and that was really rattling Giannis. You saw that lead to a couple turnovers. He didn't maintain his composure. He needs to do a better job of making the most of playing with Damian Lillard. That means being a willing screener, being a better screener, and being better as a roller and as a short roller. And outside of the possessions where he was involved with Dame in this game, it was just ugly from Giannis. He was forcing a lot of ISOs and post-ups against strong defenders. If it was PJ Tucker with Joel Embiid, one of the best interior defenders in the NBA in help, or if it was Embiid himself, who is super big, who's super strong, Giannis isn't going to have a lot of one-on-one success in that matchup where brute force just doesn't win out. And yet he kept trying it. That's where you see the inefficiency. That's where you see the turnovers. When he ran pick and roll, they were just conceding those pull-up jumpers, and he was clanking them. So this was an ugly game from Giannis. His life should be made easier by Damian Lillard. So much easier. And it is in this game in the sense that he doesn't have to try to do much in the clutch, but he also needs to lean in to having a complementary game to Dame's. And that may mean making some adjustments, but that's what he has to do for the best for himself and also for the team.
Definitely, but I mean, Dame has alleviated a ton of pressure off of Giannis to the point where, I don't know who said it on the broadcast last night. They were talking about Giannis and how people want him, or 2 nights ago, excuse me, about how they wanted Giannis. Most people want Giannis to develop a jump shot, a perimeter game, this and that. I think you're exactly right, Carson. I don't really think that's the point. Giannis is the most dominant interior force we've seen in a long time. I don't think it's about him growing that aspect of his game. Sure, it'd be nice, right, if Giannis could hit pull-up J's and could do this stuff. That's not his game. Now that he has that guy alongside him, I think it really is about him maximizing his skill set as that interior force and doing it to the best of his abilities and not attacking dumb mismatches like that, dude. When Giannis has a smaller guy on him in the post, that's easy, right? I mean, that's barbecue chicken in the post every time. But when it's not there, I think you're right. I think Giannis has to do a job of playing better complementary basketball. If that's kicking it back out to Middleton, if that's kicking it back out to Dame and resetting, those are good possessions. And I thought this was a pretty ugly game by Giannis standards. But I also thought this was a pretty ugly game by Joel Embiid standards, Carson. I didn't think Embiid had a really good game at all. I think he's really limited uniquely as a passer, as a playmaker, as a ball handler. I think that gets lost. We talk about Embiid he's one of the best jump shooting bigs of all time, right? He's super skilled on the low block. Dude, anytime the Bucks threw a double at Embiid off the catch or in the post again, we see his issues rear their ugly head. He's not really situationally aware. He's not great at noticing when those doubles are coming. And if you can double Embiid off of the catch right when he dribbles, it really disrupts him, and he's not great at getting rid of the ball. Like, he needs to get rid of it quickly to be successful in those situations. I thought this was a really disappointing game from him. Now, the Sixers were pretty resilient in this one. They had a 13-2 run with Dame off the floor to end the first half to make this competitive. It looked like the Bucks were going to run away with it. But again, you have that good stretch. At the end of this game, from midway through the third quarter to the end of the fourth, Carson, Embiid is 0 of 7 with 1 point. I mean, he completely disappears here down the stretch, and it's really about Tyrese Maxey and Kelly Oubre Jr. carrying the load of this offense and keeping them in this game. I was really, really disappointed with Embiid, and we're going to have to get a better Embiid. The rumor is that James Harden is supposed to be back for the team's next road trip. I'm not expecting 100% James Harden immediately, but this at least scales that come playoff time, we should have Harden, hopefully, knock on wood. I can't predict that far. The guy changes his mind as the wind blows. But bottom line is we need a better Joel Embiid the rest of this season, and I was really, really disappointed game one with what we got out of him. A lot of the same issues he's had persisted in this one.
Yeah, and that's why you can't view the Sixers as a legitimate contender. When your superstar player has such a tangible and exploitable weakness, like Embiid does, he runs 10 post-ups in this game, makes 1 field goal, has 5 turnovers just on those possessions, and overwhelmingly, it's as you said, doubling him off the catch, he gets rattled. He's not good at reading doubles. And of course, he's going to have a dominant regular season. And yes, of course, he's a top 10 player on the planet. But he is not able to actively amplify the talent around him as much as he could if he improved in that one area. And because of that, because now he's currently down James Harden, his second best offensive player, who knows what things look like down the line, this isn't the sort of supporting cast that can overcome that. They need him to amplify them. This team isn't loaded with talent. They're a good basketball team, but they're not filled with superstars. So for Embiid, it's obviously not about any one regular season game, but it's the limitation in the skill set that persists that is concerning. I do want to give props to a couple other Sixers, though, who balled out. Tyrese Maxey was phenomenal, man. The pull-up shooting, the presence out of pick and roll, the playmaking was very solid in this one. I think he's going to have a star caliber season. And Kelly Oubre was really impressive in this game. He was knocking down his spot-up jumpers. He was running the floor hard in transition, weaponizing his athleticism there. Got a couple nice buckets out of pick and roll. He was pretty engaged defensively. He earned himself 30-plus minutes in this game, and that was a very low-risk contract that they gave him for a relatively talented basketball player. And if he fully buys into his role here, and specifically to playing both sides of the basketball with full effort, that's going to be fun to see. I will say Philly's defense was quite good in this game for the most part. Again, they have big athletes in the front court. They're strong there. Embiid is a hell of a rim protector. The one area they struggled was in transition, getting back, and Embiid does bear some responsibility there just as a more lumbering big when you are playing a team that wants to get out and run like Milwaukee. Giannis, the best transition player in basketball, that can bite you. He got an easy transition layup late in this game. After Embiid had that terrible pass that he tried to bat to the shooter, which was very, very strange. They let up a wide open transition 3 after that. One little thing, but overall, I really liked their defensive foundation, and I think Maxey is going to have a great year, and it was a strong debut for Oubre.
Yeah, I agree. That was the final point I was going to make about Philadelphia, too, is I'm still worried about their transition defense overall with Embiid, and specifically in this matchup, I'm worried if the Sixers run into the Milwaukee buzzsaw. You know, I think Milwaukee is just definitively better at this point. It's going to take Embiid playing a lot better for Philly to be competitive. But specifically in this matchup, I don't like it, too, because it's going to be about Embiid playing a lot better on both sides of the ball, too. I don't think this is a matchup that really favors Embiid. You know, if you're running pick and roll with Embiid and he's on Giannis, he's going to drop every single time, and Dame's going to be able to get into those pull-up threes and those pull-up mid-range looks and stuff like that. And if Embiid is on Brook Lopez, if you're running actions with him too, Embiid just likes to run a lot of drop. You know what I mean? And I don't really think this is a good matchup against Dame. I'm disappointed, but I was impressed with the surrounding pieces, like you said, too. It's encouraging that Maxey looked that good, that Oubre looked that good, and I'm hopeful that Harden can fix up some of the things here in Philadelphia, man. I want to see it come together, Carson, because I want to see Embiid in Philly, but I'm not too optimistic.
Totally agree on Dame being a really tough matchup for Embiid. He did a great job on the interior, but when that screen is set 5 feet beyond the three-point line, he can't stick with Dame in space. He's too quick. He did an awesome job of penetrating, going right at Embiid in spots and being rewarded for that with free throws or buckets, and then the pull-up threes he just can't affect from that drop when they are coming from so deep. So Dame is fantastic. He completely changes all of the dynamics offensively for Milwaukee. Two little things that I just want to continue to track with the Bucks. Their point of attack defense was not great in this game. Maxey was awesome. They also weren't offering a ton of resistance. And eventually, for this team to reach its true ceiling, for this team to go out there and beat the Denver Nuggets, which is the expectation, that would be a successful season for them. Chris Middleton's got to be Chris Middleton. Still on a minutes restriction. Plays 16 minutes in this one. He's got to be healthy. We have to see him assert himself offensively as that secondary creator. He's a great shooter off ball. He can be very valuable to what this team can achieve. And of course, his role is diminished from what it was in the title run, but I do still think they need that legitimate high-end offensive talent out there when it comes down to the biggest moments. Let's talk about Lakers Suns, Logan. Unfortunately, we don't see Bradley Beal, haven't seen him as a Sun yet, and we don't see Devin Booker. What did you take away from the Lakers pulling this one out at the end?
The Lakers have been really, really resilient through 2 games. In this one, they fall behind early in the first quarter. They're getting beat 12-2 in second chance points. Phoenix goes on a 19-5 run. They're up 30-18 after the first quarter, and I'm thinking, this is not good. No D-Book, no Beal. The Lakers are coming out flat. This is going to be an ugly game, and it was a pretty ugly Lakers game. I'll say that, man. It was a pretty grimy one, but they were really resilient. They bounced back. With Durant out, they go on a 25 run in the second quarter. They were putting in a lot of work with Eubanks on the floor. And I really liked the ball movement in the second quarter in this game. They have 11 assists on 15 made shots. The ball was just moving a lot. And I was really impressed with the Lakers' defense in the fourth quarter versus Phoenix. Now, I want to be clear about something. I don't think this happens if Jusuf Nurkic is on the floor. I thought that was the only reason that the Lakers were able to really play that physically. They were able to key on Kevin Durant. You know, I'm still a little discouraged that the Lakers didn't win this game more convincingly with no Devin Booker and no Bradley Beal. I'm glad they won. I'm glad they look good at certain stretches in this game, especially in the fourth. But I just think the fully healthy Suns and the fully healthy Nuggets still really heavily clear the Lakers. I just fail to find distinct advantages that the Lakers have.
Hold on. This is big news coming from you, Logan. This is a real pivot on the Lakers, your preseason title favorite. You can't say I still think that and just move on.
I just fail to find distinct advantages that the Lakers are going to have over the 2 teams out west. It really comes down to that half-court creation and how reliable I think Anthony Davis can be as the lead guy, man. Anthony Davis has a good fourth quarter here again, too, but, you know, I don't know if this happens if Jusuf Nurkic isn't in foul trouble, man, when AD can't exert himself. It's weird, man. It's really weird with Anthony Davis, Carson. I just don't get it, man. It's not games, man. It's not quarters. It's possession to possession, it feels like, with AD. And he has good stretches in this game, and he has bad ones. In the first half, I'm going, AD, why are you being so passive? Why are you being so hesitant? Go up with the rock. And he was playing scared. The second half, he comes out there, and he's not playing scared anymore. It's just... AD's going to have to be better. I think Russell and Reeves are going to have to play above their means for this team to be successful. And it's going to take one of those two stepping up in non-LeBron minutes to generate good half-court offense. What I mean with those 2 teams, too, I want to be clear about the Nuggets and Suns. I think they get killed on the glass in both of these matchups. Again, the Lakers dominate in the fourth quarter, but that's with Nurkic.
You think
off
the Lakers
floor.
get killed on the glass against the Suns?
I think if Nurkic is not in foul trouble at the end of these games, yeah, I think that they can. I think the Suns have dogs, man. That was one of my takeaways from Phoenix, dude. Okogie was putting in work. Now, we haven't seen a healthy Jared Vanderbilt, too. I think that's interesting. Christian Wood did a phenomenal job, I thought, in the fourth, and I still like the Lakers' length. But I don't know if that matters with the Suns' dog element and then Nurkic on the floor. I thought that was a byproduct of Nurk being off the floor. So for the Lakers, I think it's going to come down to a few things on offense. Friend of the show, host of Hoops Tonight, Jason Timpf, made a good point. I think they need to go to more LeBron and AD post-ups in the half court. But I also think, Carson, they need to play with this lineup a little bit. Maybe move Russell or Reeves to the bench. Hear me out on this. What do you think? Slide one of those guys to the bench. You slide Prince to the 2, Hachimura to the 3, or LeBron at the 3, and then, I don't know.
I think they need more ball handling out there. That's a big, clunky lineup for 2023.
It is a clunky lineup. I just want to see them weaponize their size advantage a little more by getting more Christian Wood, more Hachimura minutes out there. And I don't know if that's playing more Russell or Reeves off the bench. I want them to tamper with these lineups because I feel like there's some versatility and some things that they can tap into that they haven't yet through 2 games. And maybe that's my other take then. Maybe they just need another depth guard that I like. Gabe Vincent played a good game here in this one, but I'm not in love with him as the backup ball handler too. maybe that's something else they need to address. I just want to see them play with these lineups where they can really abuse the size advantage that they have with the Hachimuras of the world, with the Christian Woods, the Vanderbilts. I just think they could lean into that a little more. But I wanted the Lakers to beat the Suns more convincingly. I was disappointed with Beal out, with D-Book out, that we didn't see the Lakers win this one by 15-20, that KD really kept them in this one single-handedly. I mean, Eric Gordon was getting praised at the end of the first half, man. Oh, somebody had to step up and ball out with these guys out. And I'm like, guys, are we watching the same Eric Gordon? I don't want him shooting 20 times a night. But good win for the Lakers. They needed the bounce-back game. And like I said, they've gotten smacked in the jaw in the first quarter of these first two games, and they've been incredibly resilient to bounce back and play hard the rest of the way. So a good win for the Lakers, but I need to see more.
Yeah, it's a fine win for the Lakers. Like you said, this game shouldn't have been this competitive, but the fourth quarter was the really impressive stretch from them. And for the first three quarters, they just got completely worked in all of the effort categories. Fourth quarter, that defensive activity turns all the way up. And yes, absolutely, the Suns are starved for offensive threats outside of Kevin Durant on the floor. There's a lack of creation there. There's a lack of shot making, but they started to really defend well. I did think that Christian Wood did a good job out there, moving well on the perimeter, affecting KD with his length. I thought that he also attacked the glass ferociously. All I'm saying is Christian Wood going from playing the most important defensive position, for which he's really not well suited given his frame, in horrible, horrible defensive situations where he's going to, first of all, have huge responsibility and he's not going to be getting help from the guys around him, to now playing the four alongside the best defensive player on the planet who can cover up for some of his mistakes, where he doesn't have to be that primary rim protector, playing in a good defensive culture. He's athletic, he's agile, he's very long. He's looked fine through two games, so maybe Christian Wood isn't the worst defender on the planet like everybody has just decided that he is because he's played for bad basketball teams, maybe out of position defensively. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I was impressed by his defensive effort in this game. And then I think that you see when it comes down to crunch time, LeBron able to get to the bucket at will. Still an elite transition player, still a dominant downhill force. And the Suns really do not have a matchup for him. I actually am still concerned by this team getting bullied physically by the Lakers
Phoenix?
When they are bought in. Yeah, I am. I mean, they're guarding him with Eric Gordon and Josh Okogie, man. Like, yeah, those guys are relatively strong for guards, but they're small and they're not LeBron strong. They are food for him. And Nurk, yeah, he's going to work really hard on the glass, but he just can't offer that much resistance as a rim protector to LeBron James with a head of steam. I also thought that AD in this fourth quarter does deserve props for asserting himself on the interior, for sealing dudes off when he had mismatches, for attacking the glass really hard, for going at Nurk in a couple spots, drawing fouls and whatnot. I just like to see him engaged and particularly trying to attack the bucket, and we saw that in this one. So I liked a lot of what we saw from them in the fourth quarter, but as a whole, this just was not a good game. They could not make a shot from the perimeter. They were 5 of 29 from deep. Their engagement really waxed and waned for those first three quarters. And again, a team that is so reliant on D'Angelo Russell for half-court creation because LeBron is going to be so selective with when he really exerts himself, you are going to have a roller coaster. And this is another one where it's lots of tough D'Lo pull-up jumpers, and guess what? He's going to clank a whole bunch of those. So thank God for their sake that they pulled this one out, that they got the win, that they pulled things together defensively. I'm definitely not ready to launch the Suns above them or anything. To me, again, the Nuggets are in a different tier than everybody out west right now. We haven't even seen what the Suns really look like. I agree in terms of the fact that they have done a good job of adding depth guys who are going to play hard. Josh Okogie has been awesome through two games. Not only is he shooting the ball well, which isn't always the case for him, he is attacking that offensive glass. Dude, he has 8 offensive rebounds through these first two games, and I think he's a really underrated offensive rebounding guard. Like, historically, throughout his career, he's averaged almost as many offensive rebounds as defensive rebounds.
Wow.
Had a couple games like that in the playoff run last year, too. But when you're relying on Eric Gordon and Jordan Goodwin to combine for 30-plus shots, when KD is basically limited to taking tough pull-up jumpers in isolation against long defenders because he's going to see multiple defenders otherwise, and he doesn't trust the shot making of the guys around him, it's going to be really hard for that basketball team to win games. So, yeah, when they are missing their second and third best players, whose overwhelming value is just offensive skill shot making, of course, they're going to take a big hit in those categories.
I did like the play from the role guys, and I'm warming up to this Phoenix bench, Carson. You mentioned Okogie. That guy just plays super hard, man. He's like the Tasmanian devil, man. He's like the Energizer Bunny, man. He just doesn't stop going. I love that in a guy, and I really like Jordan Goodwin today too. A couple nights ago, I didn't like him shooting all those shots, but Goodwin defensively crashing the boards too. Another dog. Eubanks kind of gets big bodied in this one. I still like him off the bench. I like how they filled out this roster, and I cannot wait to see them at full strength, man. Beal, Book, KD, everybody out there. I'm really excited for the fully healthy Suns because I do think they have enough good role players to get them through. Those guys are going to play hard every night, and again, they don't have these massive roles where they have to exert themselves. Their jobs are going to be play hard defense, make hustle plays, do the little things, and I like the supporting cast.
Yeah, they did a very good job, and last thing on this game, I really did think that AD played a defensive clinic. He's the best defensive player alive. Has 6 stocks in this game, monster rim protection. But again, it's the ability to affect passing lanes, to disrupt guys with his hands. He has 3 steals in this game. He had another one he knocked out of bounds. He had the Nurk post up where he held strong, and that should have basically been a steal for him, but I don't think it was counted as one. That was a really strong game from him. So I'm not just ready to be out on the Lakers or anything like that. First of all, I don't think this is a team that is built to be nearly its best in the regular season. A big reason for that being that LeBron James, who can be their most important and best player, is not going to give his full effort throughout the regular season. So you are going to rely on more unreliable guys to carry the load offensively, like D'Angelo Russell. And I just don't think that we've seen their best effort. I don't think that we've seen their best level of engagement through 2 games. I do think that this is an improved team from last year. I'm not moving them down in my Western Conference rankings right now, but of course they're solidly below the Nuggets, and we'll see what they can do. But shout out Christian Wood, man. He earned those closing minutes in this one. He really did. All right, let's talk about another new look group, even more so, Logan, in terms of the star talent that they've turned over. What did you think about the Celtics in their debut?
This guy loves Christian Wood, man.
You're goddamn right I do. And he's like the most slandered NBA player alive, and all I'm saying is give the guy a chance. Yeah, his vision offensively can be very limited, but he's hella skilled, he's hella athletic, and if he plays with good effort defensively and he doesn't make back-breaking errors there, that's a basketball player you really want out on the floor when it counts. And guess what they did? And he was plus 23 in this game.
You're damn right he was. Christian Wood for MVP, for Defensive Player of the Year, for Rookie of the Year, for Most Improved. Give him all the awards, man.
All of it. Coach of the Year. He's a vocal leader, you can tell.
Christian Wood, Hall of Famer, on the table.
Yes.
Carson, I loved what I saw from the Boston Celtics new additions, dude. Kristaps Porzingis, we can start with, man, drops a 30-piece. I just was floored by how open he was in this game. I mean, at times he can be frustrating, him taking those deep threes, but, I mean, he was hitting enough of them. He goes 5 of 9 from deep in this one, and he's just such a good release valve for Jason Tatum when he gets those doubles or when he loses attention. I also thought Porzingis did a really good job of when Tatum drove or when somebody drove the lane, he did a really good job of relocating back off ball on the other side, on the other wing. He just opens up so many more dynamics for Boston offensively. But that floor spacing is where it starts and where he brings his most value. That was huge in this one. And then I think, what he adds with post-up touches, with his size, with interior defense, everybody talked about how big of a loss Robert Williams was and what a good defensive playmaker he is. And I don't want to take anything away from Time Lord. I love him. I think he's a really good defensive asset. I think he's a really good rim runner. I think he's a really good rebounder, an interior guy. But, Porzingis is huge. It brings that same kind of interior rim protection just off of size alone. And then you talk about Drew Holiday, man, also being brought in here. He held the Knicks players he defended to 3 of 15 shooting in this one. Him and Derek White, I think, are the best point of attack defenders in the league today. They've got a really, really, really solid top 6, man. I'm shaky about the next 2 guys off the bench, but this is probably the best top 6 in all of basketball. My one issue, and I don't know if we talked about this or if you tweeted it out as well, man. The one thing that just continues to be frustrating is Jason Tatum in the clutch, man. Wow. Like, there's just a few plays down the stretch here. A turnover where he gets doubled. And then the one that really got me, man, was where they inbound in the backcourt. And I'm like, okay, Tatum, push the ball up the floor. And he immediately gets trapped in the backcourt on his own baseline. And Missoula is forced to call that timeout where they can't advance the ball. That's a really little thing, and it doesn't cost them in this one. They end up winning this game. But that's something that, I don't know, man. You don't ever want to get trapped like that and leave yourself susceptible, because I was thinking, oh my God, dude, Tatum's about to turn the rock over and the Knicks are about to get it. Little moments in the clutch, man, and that's where Tatum really needs to clean it up. And the Celtics don't have anyone else to rely on, right? Like, in those moments is what I mean. Jaylen Brown is a great co-star. Kristaps Porzingis is a great co-star. Drew Holiday is a really good co-star, right? And on these guys' best nights, they can be really impactful offensive players. And I think Porzingis night tonight will be an impactful offensive player. I think Jaylen Brown will be a really impactful offensive player. Drew Holiday, give or take. But every single night, it's Jason Tatum's responsibility to get this team over the top in tight games, in crunch time. And he really has yet to show us that he can, man. I mean, he's not a developed enough playmaker. He doesn't deal with doubles super well. That's the one area that we really need to see from the Boston improving. And I thought we saw some growing pains in this one too, man. The offense stagnated at moments. It wasn't seamless. I think Boston is going to get better as the season goes along. But I think this regular season really is about seeing these close games and seeing how Tatum can improve in these clutch moments. It's what has killed them in the playoffs the past 2 years, and it's the biggest area where they need to grow.
Yeah, you definitely have a couple of unfortunate mental errors from Tatum down the stretch, and this one loses the handle in that one spot, killer turnover. But for the most part, I thought he was really, really good in this game. Particularly, I just loved the aggression with which he was attacking the bucket. I thought his body control on those drives was just fantastic. I thought that he was engaged defensively. I mean, he was varying his shot selection a little bit, attacking out of the post, a couple turnarounds. It'll be interesting to see if he adds that dimension to his game more consistently throughout this year. I thought it was a good game from Tatum overall, and I love the Porzingis fit, man. I was super high on when they got him. I think that he is a phenomenal fit here, and I think he's just an underrated player. He had such a great season last year, really the best of his career, especially defensively, and because it happened in Washington in a terrible situation, he didn't get that much credit for it. But out of the 15 defenders who defended the most shots inside of 6 feet last year around the rim, only he and Brook Lopez held them 10% or more below their typical field goal percentage. That's elite rim protection, and you felt that in this one with the 4 blocks. And then offensively, he just fits in so seamlessly. There is going to be a bit of a learning process with the guys who want to handle the ball a lot in terms of striking a balance, now injecting Drew Holiday into that mix with Jaylen and Jason. And I think that Drew will be able to take a little bit more of a back seat, but Kristaps just immediately, everything that he does fits into the flow of this offense. He took 15 shots in this game. 7 of them were as a spot-up shooter. 6 of them were out of pick and roll as a roller or a popper, and the other 2 were off of a cut and an offensive board. That is 0 possessions that are drawn up, that are dictated by Kristaps Porzingis, and he is still crazy productive there while having a massive defensive impact. That's just the dream sort of addition for them. Because you got to keep in mind, Logan, this isn't just an elite shooter and a good athlete as a roller. This was a 88th percentile post scorer last year on high volume. This is a guy who has started to play more physically out of the post, who can shoot over people at will in that area. So there's more upside there for him as a mismatch attacker. I just think everything he does fits in and enhances this basketball team without really taking stuff away, without some of those painful moments. And there's going to be a lot of nights where he is their second best player. And that's not to say that's always going to be the case. And yeah, maybe there will be stretches where it is frustrating how much he's relying solely on the jump shot, how much he's taking those turnarounds out of the post or whatever, the deep threes. But for the most part, he's really good at those things. and he does multiple things to impact winning in a big way. And then Drew, like you said, just awesome point of attack defense in this one. The effort fighting through screens, his ability to contest shots effectively, his switch ability. He held up well on a couple post-up switches against Julius Randle. Awesome hands with the 3 blocks. You know he is going to be a superstar on that end of the floor. Offensively, it was a minimal impact from him in this one. A couple pull-up jumpers, basically, where we know he can be hot and cold, but he just doesn't have to do that much. His greatest value to this team can be, yes, injecting a bit of that additional scoring and playmaking and offensive skill, but even more so, I think it is in resetting this defensive culture, allowing them to reach their highest ceiling on that end of the floor, which we know with their talent top to bottom is really, really high. This was a strong debut from the Celtics. Yes, they stagnated in spots. It came down to that clutch stretch, but I'm just so encouraged by what I saw from Porzingis. That to me is easily the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, one last thing on the Celtics, Carson. I just want to give a big shout out to Derek White. All this talent here, I feel like he can get swept under the rug a little bit. I thought this was a phenomenal game from him. One of my favorite role players in the league, could fit in anywhere. But I mean, just the way he cuts behind the defense, the way he's so aware off ball, he doesn't need the rock in his hands. He's a great defender. I just think Derek White is just such a good complimentary basketball player and such a winning basketball player. I just want to give him a big shout out. It was another great game from him. And yeah, again, dude, the Celtics top 6, maybe better than anybody else's top 6 in all of basketball, man.
And I do love that now their 2 big looks, I mean, they are always playing with 5 shooters on the floor. Like, that is a rare team. That is a really rare asset to have. So their shooting ceiling is crazy high, which it already was last year. Now it's even higher. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub.
And with DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at even bigger basketball wins. String together multiple bets from the same game or build your parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter.
Basketball is more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code NERDS. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code NERDS. The crown is yours. Let's talk about another debut from a 7'3" European guy with really outlier offensive skill for that size. That being Victor Wembanyama, Logan. I don't know if you've heard of him. What did you think of how he looked against the Mavs in his first NBA game?
Look at that transition, man.
Yeah.
I really liked what I saw from Wemby. You see flashes of the pick and pop and the pick and roll game, and it was really impressive. I mean, he has 6 points going into the fourth quarter. He gets 9 of them in the fourth, which is just a little tougher to do. You see flashes of the defensive ability, too. He gets a block in this one, super long, can just... I've just never seen anything like it, man. The way he can cover so much space just by standing in one spot. It truly is remarkable. I'd like to see Wemby get downhill a little more, weaponize his size, getting to easier looks. But, I mean, when the pull-up shot's falling like that and you've got that flow as a shooter, you know, when the stroke's hitting and you're knocking down pull-up jumpers, I'm not going to tell you to switch up the game. Hey, yo. I would like to see Wemby get to those easier looks. But, again, man, when the perimeter game's working so well, I'm not too concerned. And I liked what I saw from the surrounding pieces on the Spurs. I like their front court. I like their defense. And I like Zach Collins. I like what he does. He takes a lot of pressure off of Wemby as a rim protector, allows him to play that rover role a little more, free safety. And I like Jeremy Sohan defensively, too. I like your guy, Devin Vassell. I think the Spurs are going to be better than I expected, Carson. And I think Wemby's going to play a bigger role in terms of winning meaningful basketball immediately than I expected. Not a crazy debut from Wemby, but encouraging stuff, and I like what I saw. Played an efficient game, and again, playing winning basketball from the jump.
The Spurs are going to be a very competitive basketball team. I love Zach Collins. Really good extension they got him on, 2 years, $35 million. It's not just the rim protection where he's really good. He's skilled offensively. He can space the floor. He can score out of the post. He's a really good passer there, especially. And then the depth here, dude. I mean, Chetty, Trey Jones, Malachi Branham, all those guys were good off the bench in this one. I like all of them as bench players going forward. Sohan, the all-around impact, the playmaking, the defense, the rebounding, impressive. And Vassell, just really, really nice game. Such a smooth offensive player, really nice pull-up shooter. But this was a solid debut from Wemby. It's strange because we only get to see the 23 minutes due to foul trouble, but you see just the ability to shoot over anybody. On that face-up possession against Grant Williams, he's got the pretty sidestep 3 over Derek Lively, who was 7 foot with a 7'7" wingspan, and he might as well have not been there. You see that smooth pull-up 3 that he has in the fourth quarter. That was impressive. That stood out in this game, just how dialed in he was as an outside shooter. A matchup like Grant Williams is an interesting one for him, though, because you talk about Wemby getting downhill. That is very tough for him to do out of stagnant post-ups and isolations against a guy like Grant, who is way stronger than him, who is going to be able to move him off his spots, make him uncomfortable off the catch. You see the frustration offensive foul with Wemby a little bit. He's just got to do what he can to get that extra edge for positioning against a guy who has that much more strength than him, that much of a lower center of gravity. And then he's pesky. He's not a guy who Wemby's going to be comfortable putting the ball on the floor against. Grant Williams is just lower to the ground. It's going to be easy for him to affect that handle. So that's why I still want to see the Spurs doing more for Wemby to get him going towards the basket as a roller. There are a couple spots in this game where you see he is such a massive target on that lob where you just throw it up in the vicinity of the rim. He is going to get it. In transition, when he has that cross match, he seals the guy off. You just throw it up there and he gets an easy dunk out of it. I think they just need to simplify things more, get him going in spots like that when he is dealing with pesky defenders who he's not going to easily create against one-on-one. Sure, he can shoot over them at any time, and he was really good there in this one. At the same time, always relying on those contested jumpers. Well, they're not all that contested when it's only a 6'6" guy like Grant, but I think that Wemby can have a more diverse offensive impact than that, and you don't just want to solely rely on that. So I continue to look for that. Empower big Wemby as much as wing Wemby, and empower Wemby as a roller as much, if not more, than isolating from the perimeter Wemby. But his length had such a massive impact in this game too. I mean, he's got the 2 steals. That weak side block on Kyrie was ridiculous. Kyrie's probably never been blocked on a shot like that in his life. And just the consistency with the closeouts. He's a tough guy to shoot over. So Wemby's going to be a superstar. And I think this Spurs team is really solid. For Wemby, it's just the turnovers, the fouls, not great in this one. What did you think about the retooled Mavs opposite them?
Shout out Derek Jones Jr. I didn't know he was in the league still. Starts for the Mavs in this one.
Starting, yeah.
Shout out Grant Williams. Grant Williams, Batman, is going to have to be one of, if not the best role player on this team. Grant's better than I made out last year. Anytime I think of Grant Williams, I just kind of laugh. I think he looks like the Michelin Man a little bit.
I knew you were going to say that.
Shout out the Michelin Man. Grant played a really good one in this one. I don't like that he's going to have to be one of this team's best role players, but played good defense in this one. He's a stout fella. He shot the pill well. The guy I was most impressed with has to be Derek Lively II, dude. You know,
oh yeah.
I thought he was pretty raw coming to the league. We talked about him in terms of foul trouble, how raw his scoring skill set was. I mean, his length and athleticism just makes him so impactful immediately, dude. He's got 16 points in this one. More points in his NBA debut than he had in any single game in his collegiate career.
Yeah.
Insane. He goes 16, 10, and 1 with a steal and a block, and I really like his pairing with Luka, man. He's setting good high screens. He's rolling hard. And it just gives Luka a comically large and long target. And just adds this vertical dynamic that the offense hasn't really had. You know, you think about their best rim runner, and, you know, it's Dwight Powell. This is it's a massive upgrade. It gives the Mavs much-needed size, length, and athleticism in the front court. And I was really impressed with his finishing in this one. He's got a finish where he gets the ball and finishes on the right side, right off the top of the glass. He finishes with his left hand on another one. And that putback was ridiculous, man, the one that comes off the rim. And he flies in for it. Derek Lively was the big star for me because I was
Yeah.
not expecting him to ball this well in this first game. I think he's going to add. I didn't expect him to be that impactful as a rookie. I think that Derek Lively is going to be able to swing games for the Mavs his rookie season. He's a huge, an imperative piece for the Mavs this season, and he's a lot further along than I expected him to be.
He was awesome in this game, and I didn't love him as a prospect, and I thought that the Mavs overdrafted him a bit relative to where he would have been on my board, but the fit is fantastic. And it's like you said, we have seen Luka amplify dudes as rim runners like Dwight Powell, right? Create bunch of lobs for those dudes. He creates as many lobs for his teammates as anybody outside of Trae Young. And I said in the preseason, Derek Lively is going to be spoon-fed a few of those looks every game. Life is going to be really easy on him offensively. But to see it in action, man, I mean, he really is such a massive target there. And having a guy who you have to worry about that much as a lob threat really does make Luka's life easier now, right? He can basically have you thinking about the lob all the way, and occasionally the low man, the pick and roll big man defensively is going to overplay that. Luka's just going to get himself a nice, easy, open right-handed layup. He's a weapon offensively, but as much as I was impressed by just his athleticism, I was super impressed by his activity. He was playing really, really hard in this game, fighting on the glass. Defensively, his length is really impactful, and you see lots of guys just settling for pull-up jumpers against him, don't want to challenge him. So he balled out, and I do think that he'll be better than I expected. I was very worried about the Mavs trying to plug their two biggest issues, that being wing defense and just their overall big play, but particularly defensively with two rookies, both of whom had some stuff to refine. Lively, as you mentioned, undisciplined at times, foul prone. Offensively, we could see him have sort of those baby deer tendencies where it's like, oh, he's clearly got so much potential, but he can sort of flub the easy stuff. And in this game, there was none of that. He just balled out in his role, and I'm excited to see what he can do going forward. And then Josh Green and Grant Williams are two legitimately good wings. And then Luka's just the maestro in this game, man. He gets whatever he wants. I think that because of team success last year, the lack thereof, which really was not his fault. Like, yes, he should have been more engaged as the year went along. He certainly could have given more effort defensively, but I think that that sort of detracted from the public view of him. I think when you were talking about dudes who are consistently available, I've talked about how I think that Kawhi is a top 5 player when healthy still, but that's just sort of a rarity, especially when it comes down to the postseason. Luka has to be in those top 4 players. I think that after Jokic, Giannis, Steph, it is Luka. The consistency with which he can manufacture elite offense as a scorer, out of pick and roll, from the perimeter and in that painted area, and as a top 3 playmaker on the planet. His playoff track record is so proven. His scoring scales so well there. He just imposes himself on the game in a way that very few people can. So it's going to be a really good offense. And if Lively can continue to play at this level, if he can have a pronounced impact defensively, Grant and Josh doing their jobs well, this team has the potential to be better than I anticipated. I am still worried about the defense, though, especially in that opening quarter. You see the Spurs are just having a field day. They defended much better after that, but that 43-point first quarter was a bit concerning for me. So we'll see what they're capable of, but whenever you have Luka and Kyrie and role guys who are playing solid, you can win basketball games. All right, give me another takeaway from any game that we've seen up to this point, Logan. We're each going to share 3 of these. What's your first?
All right. Hear me out, Carson. I got the full list this time, too, so we can get into it.
Okay.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a top 10 NBA player and will lead the Thunder to the playoffs. Here's my list right now. Okay. Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Steph Curry, Luka, Devin Booker, Damian Lillard, Jimmy Butler, SGA, Tatum, and then Embiid in that order. And I've omitted guys with health concerns. So no Kawhi, AD, Zion Williamson. I omitted those guys. I think availability is an important factor when ranking a top 10 guy, and you just can't rely on those guys to be on the floor enough. That's my top 10 right now, and I think we all know what SGA did last season. 31, 5, and 6 on over 62% true shooting. He had the sixth most efficient 31 point per game season in NBA history behind Steph Curry, Embiid, Dame, KD, and tied with James Harden and he who will not be named. Last year, shot 47% on pull-ups, 45% on fadeaways, 53% on turnarounds, and 43% on step-backs. In this game, 31, 5, and 10, and with a steal and 2 blocks, plus 19 in his minutes. And his skill set is just so phenomenal, dude. He's got long strides, long arms. All SGA needs is a step on a guard or a wing, and he can get to the bucket with ease. He's such a physical scorer, always looking for contact. And if you make up the ground on the drive simple, he throws that bow out you, pumps the brakes, and steps back. There's nothing you can do. He's got phenomenal change in pace and deceleration, Carson. I think he's got one of the deadliest step backs I've ever seen. Like I mentioned, 43% last season. He shoots 5 of 5 in this game versus the Bulls. And that's what I want to hyper-focus in on, man. The step back you see on Alex Caruso, one of the best perimeter defenders in all the league. He hits that jab step off the catch to get him leaning one way, drives, leans into Caruso to force him towards the basket, drags his ball under his legs, steps back, and creates 5 feet of separation on one of the best defenders in the league. The step back on Patrick Williams, he gets a slip screen from Sarr. He goes into a slow hang dribble, tween, explodes to drive past Williams. He thinks he's going to go to the bucket. And because of his acceleration, again, super good burst, Williams has to sprint to recover. Shea immediately slams on the brakes, sells it additionally by bending his ankle angle too, creates 6 feet of separation there, boom, stops, pops, cash money. And on top of that, I was super impressed with how he weaponized his scoring into playmaking too. We talked about Devin Booker in his debut game, how he did that. SGA racks up 10 assists in this one, and he was just drawing a ton of attention in doubles because of how effective he was as a scorer in this game. He drives the lane on DeMar, slams the break, throws that elbow, pump fakes, looks like he's going to go up with a step through. All 5 Bulls players are in the paint, and they're looking at SGA. All of their attention is on SGA, but he doesn't go up with the shot. He kicks it out to J-Dub for a 3. Caruso closes well, still cash money. Another possession. He drives the lane on Patrick Williams. Kobe, DeMar, and Patrick Williams are all looking at SGA. Again, jumps up for the shot, changes midair, and kicks it out to Giddey. Easy 3. Another possession on Patrick Williams. DeMar slides, help side. DeMar, Vucevic, and Patrick Williams, all of them attentive on Shea. Goes up for a layup, kicks it out to Caruso for the easy catch-and-shoot 3. The bottom line with SGA, he's one of the most complete, craftiest, and unpredictable scorers in all of basketball. He's got an unstoppable scoring skill set. But seeing that unstoppable scoring unlock his playmaking makes him not only a complete offensive scorer, but a complete offensive engine. He is one of my favorite players to watch in all of the NBA. Mm-hmm. I think he's a top 10 player in basketball. And I think this is the year that the Thunder take that leap into being real playoff players, man. I just love SGA, dude, and I think he's one of the best players on the planet.
Bro gave the full SGA play-by-play report for the game. I love SGA, too. I agree with a lot of you said. I just want to clarify, because your top 10 is wacky as hell, bro. As
what?
Logan Camden list is prone to be. Did you not even mention Jason Tatum and Kevin Durant?
Oh, damn, I didn't have KD. All right, my fault. We're going to bump Embiid. Embiid's going to go into our bum/health concern tier.
Was Tatum in your top 10? Or did
you
just...
No, I had Tatum at 9. I'll slide KD like right in front of Tatum behind SGA.
You're knocking Joel Embiid out of your top 10. Interesting. Yeah, I have several problems with your list.
You don't want SGA over Embiid.
Hold on, that's not even what I'm going to talk about right now. All the respect to Jimmy in the world. Where did you have him? 7?
I have Jimmy it's 7.
That feels high to me. I love SGA. I definitely think he's in these conversations. I would take him over AD right now, despite what AD is doing defensively, because of the consistently elite offensive level that he's able to reach as a scorer and a playmaker while being a real plus defender. I would take him over LeBron right now. I mean, on a night-to-night basis, there's no question who's better. And LeBron, I need to see again that he can reach that level that is above what SGA is doing right now, because he didn't do it in last year's playoff run. I mean, he had a couple of really great games, but in terms of consistency, again, SGA is certainly better. He is definitely very much knocking on that door. I still think KD has to be top 10. I still think Tatum, Book, I'm taking those guys above SGA, but the margins aren't all that large. And that was one of my takeaways from the first day of full basketball too, was just that the Thunder looked really good. SGA is unstoppable in the lane. He has the best paint footwork of any guard in the NBA today, no question. When you were talking about step throughs, when you're talking about his ability to step back, his balance and body control navigating the paint, he's just phenomenal. But the Thunder as a whole, I thought, looked really good. And I know some people have focused in on, oh, the Bulls suck. And they do, and they call the players only meeting after one game, and that's not good. But oftentimes a 20-point win is a combination of the two factors. Jalen Williams is the man. You see it with him scoring and playmaking in this game. Josh Giddey was actually knocking down his open threes in this game. That really changes who he can be as a player if he's able to do that with any consistency. But the depth too, man. Your boy Kason was lights out in this game. Isaiah Joe was one of the best pure shooters in basketball. You felt that. And Ousmane Dieng, who I gave a little shout out to, Logan, he actually plays minutes in this game, and I'm telling you, that shot of his looks legitimately improved to me. He goes 3 of 5 from deep. So the totality of this team with what I believe Chet can be going forward, this wasn't his best game. I think he can have a more pronounced defensive impact on the interior. When you have a guy who is a top 10 player very close to it, oh, I forgot that you have Dame too. I actually would prefer SGA to Dame right now, I think. I mean, they are both phenomenal offensive players.
That one's close.
That one's close, but I think because SGA is a legitimate plus defensively and Dame is a legitimate negative, they're so different in terms of how they do it, but I think both create elite offense. Dame is maybe a better pure offensive player just by a little bit, but I do love the consistency with which SGA can attack the paint and his versatility as a shot maker, right? He's not just reliant on sheer athleticism. Oh, can I get right to the rim every time? Oh man, what if you load up on me? Well, now I can't get to the rim and I'm not a good enough playmaker to dissect that. No, it's attacking that 8 to 12 feet range. We talked about how he's the best short mid-range shooter in basketball outside of Kevin Durant. Man, dude, it's almost hard to get my head around your list. It's so strange. It's so different from what I would do. But there are 15 dudes in those conversations, you know? SGA is absolutely there.
League's never been more talented, man. And I just want to hammer home, dude, the deceleration and step back. Go and watch. It's absurd how he hits the gas so fast and immediately it's one step. And he is planning all that energy on that drive into that one step and immediately transferring it backwards to create that space. It's so hard to do. It's just really impressive, man. SGA is so much fun to watch.
It's incredible. In terms of change in pace, he and Luka are easily 1 and 2 in the league, and everybody else is playing for that bronze medal. Really excited about the Thunder. I think that's going to be a really good basketball team. Somebody who I'm not as excited about, Logan, is the Memphis Grizzlies, who I talked about in the preseason being very concerned about their prospects after losing Steven Adams, losing what he brought as an interior defender and a dominant rebounder, how much worse they were without him last year, and now not having Ja Morant for 25 games. Their offense sucked in this game, and the spot-up shooting is bad, but they are really lacking in creation from the perimeter. They don't have athletes to pressure the rim without Ja. They don't have really high-end playmaking. Smart is solid. Bane is fine, but those guys aren't able to penetrate at the level to demand that defensive attention for consistent drive and kick opportunities at a high level. And without Ja, they can't get their transition offense going like normal, which has always been their strength. They're not a good half-court offense, even with Ja. They were 20th percentile there last year, but they're one of the best and most prolific transition offenses because of what Ja can do out in space athletically. They don't have that dimension to their offense anymore. And the bench, Logan, I've talked about being worried about the regression of their depth. Obviously, now they're down 2 of their best players, but they're going to be down 1 of them for the whole year, and they're going to be down the other one for a third of the year. Whole lot of Derrick Rose in this game, man. Whole lot of Derrick Rose, who I just think is a real fringe rotation player at this point. He's got to sort of force the issue with multiple tough runners in the lane. He's just not a guy I want to be relying on even to manufacture my bench offense. So I was very underwhelmed by the Grizzlies. I think it's a bad shooting team. I think they lack creation. I think they've lost that transition dimension without Ja that is normally what makes them a good offense. And I think they're going to really struggle without Ja Morant.
I think they are too, Carson. I had a takeaway from that game as well, and mine was that I really like the Pelicans. I said this in the preseason that they were on the fringes for me as a contender, but they're going to be on my contender radar moving forward. I think the Pels are a little bit top heavy. I don't love the depth. I think that they need Trey Murphy healthy towards the end of the season to make that push. But I liked what I saw from their top four guys. You've got four legit offensive options that can exploit mismatches in what the defense does. Zion Williamson at full strength is one of the best offensive players on planet Earth. Again, I thought he looked really unselfish in this one, spotting open guys, weaponizing the attention that he gets, but also, again, just being such a dominant force. He's got 2 alley-oops in this one. That crazy one where he splits the defense and jams all on Triple J. Zion's a freak. He's going to have to be this team's best offensive player, but I thought he looked really good in this one. Ingram destroyed them from mid-range. I believe shot 4 of 6 on pull-up jumpers. McCollum looked good. Valanciunas spaced the floor really well, dominated the interior. They're top-heavy. I really like their top four, but I liked what I saw out of the depth, too. Herb Jones is a defender. I liked what I saw out of Dyson Daniels. I don't like Dyson as much as the other guys, but I like Dyson a little bit. Give him a few minutes off the bench a night. And Matt Ryan was shooting the hell out that pill. So
yeah,
I don't love the depth here. I really like the top four, but the Pelicans are going to be good enough to where they're on my fringe contender hierarchy, playoff contenders. So they're on my radar, and it was a good day one. Obviously, like I've harped on all offseason, it's contingent on Zion Williamson being healthy, playing good ball. But if we can see that, I like the Pels, and they're on my radar.
Zion is truly one of a kind in his ability to attack and finish around the rim. You already see that. Whenever he is healthy, you are going to see that. He is a top 15 player on the planet. He is an absolute offensive force. And the full-strength Pelicans should be really good, man. There's never really been a doubt about that, especially once Trey Murphy comes back with his defensive value, with his next-level shooting. That top six is really good. I don't love the depth. I want to see what Jordan Hawkins can contribute. Larry Nance is a dude who's going to make some winning plays, fight on the glass. It was a lot of Matt Ryan in this game, but yeah, he was sort of yanging him from deep. So I don't love the depth, and I do still have concerns about the absolute defensive ceiling that they can reach with their interior defense. And then I do worry about how that effortless shot creation from the perimeter compares to the league's true contenders. CJ and BI are very good, but in terms of that lethal pull-up shooting from deep and really high-end playmaking combo, they're just not the absolute creme de la creme, so to speak, as the French would say. But I really do like them, and I think that this was a strong debut. I just hope and pray that they can stay healthy and keep these pieces together. Last thing on this game that I do want to say in terms of the Grizzlies' offensive limitations, Triple J just remains the most frustrating player alive. This is another game from him where he's just sort of clanging those jumpers from deep. He's a bit out of control at times, not consistently trying to attack mismatches, and he just kind of disappears. They're also starting Zaire Williams, which is a potential spacing concern. Not proven as a shooter. He struggled there in his first 2 years. So it's just a group that's starved for offensive talent. And the Pels are definitely the better team in that division this year. All right. What is your last little takeaway here, Logan?
My final takeaway is that Russell Westbrook might play winning basketball this year, and the Clippers will be better than I thought. I am Tony Gonzalez, University of California. I thought Russ played really unselfish in this one, moving the ball within the flow of the offense. I thought he had great shot selection compared to normal. He looked good off ball. He had that backdoor cut early on Scoot for that rim rattler that got everybody fired up. But I loved his positioning. He played more in the paint and on the interior, that forces the defense to actually pay him attention. I think even being in the corner is better than him being above the break. He was running out in transition. He physically looked great. He looked explosive. He looked bouncy as hell. He was getting downhill, pressuring the rim. And I really liked how Russ weaponized his strength in this one. When he got a mismatch, he was posting up smaller guards. If it was Ant Simons, if it was Scoot, It's just a smarter way to get the defense to pay attention to you and to weaponize what you do well. That's play inside. I do think some of his success had to do with the matchup versus the Scoot, versus the Blazers, versus a new-look team, a young defense, a rookie guard, and admittedly what I think is going to be a poor defense. I think if the Blazers were smart, they would take Ayton, and I would move Ayton to the 4 spot, and I'd let Rob hold down the paint. I don't think Ayton really knows what he's doing defensively. But bottom line, Russ looked invigorated, he looked engaged, and he was hustling his ass off, and it led to team success too. They were plus 30 in Westbrook minutes. He goes 11, 5, and 13 on 5 of 8 from the field, 1 of 2 from deep. These are one-game numbers, but the Clippers had an offensive rating of 146.7 with Russ and a defensive rating of 96.7. That's ridiculous, but I like the Clippers. They've got an actual point guard in Russ, and if he plays smart basketball, which again, I don't know if I can bank on. We've got seasons worth of footage that says that's not going to be the case, but I can hope. They've got star power, Kawhi and PG. They've got an underrated interior big in Zubats, playable and meaningful bench creators in Norm, Terrence Mann, Bones. And I think they've got solid depth in wing defense with Rocco Batum, KMJ, and Plumlee. So does this dramatically change my outlook on the Clippers season? Probably not. Yeah, I think it still has to do more with the stars playing games. Again, I mentioned this in our preview. Kawhi's played 41 games per season since joining LA. PG has played 48 per season since joining LA. But I was impressed. They look better than I thought. Russ played really good ball. And I remain optimistic, and I want to give him his flowers for playing a really good Game 1.
Russ was fantastic. And Clippers Russ has been so much better than Lakers Russ. It is absolutely a better situation for him. I mean, the spacing is so much better, which opens up lanes for him, attacking the rim, creating looks out or drive and kick. But you mentioned it, dude, weaponizing his physicality. He's not just got this elite burst, which isn't quite what it used to be, but is still pretty damn good. He's one of the strongest guards in the NBA, and so he is able to bully dudes like that. And then, once he was hitting the paint in this game, a lot of those times he was looking for that drive and kick, and he is such a good passer. So this was a really good Russ game, and I sort of feel silly for not mentioning the Clippers in our contender hierarchy episode, just because it's like my confidence in them being healthy when it comes to playoff time is maybe 15 to 20%, so I don't want to bet on that. But I do think they are a top 7 basketball team at full strength. They still have concerns, again, reaching the same defensive ceiling that they used to. Relying on Russ in a high usage role, I do worry about the ups and downs when his decision-making does turn south, when he is relying on pull-up jumpers that he's just clanking, if he's not fully engaged defensively. I just think there's too many question marks to put them in that top 5 sort of tier, but I mean, they have a dominant wing duo. They have lots of shooting up and down this roster. And when Russ is playing well, Zubats, I think, again, is an underrated interior force on both sides of the ball. Just a really good basketball player. The Clippers should be good. The Blazers are going to be not so good, but I do think they can be fun offensively. Did you say that you think that they should start Ayton at the 4, though?
I mean, I hate watching Ayton play defense at the 5 spot. I would much rather have Time Lord at the 5. You know what? Here, let me restate it. I hate DeAndre Ayton, and I wish he didn't play basketball or was on a different team. It was just frustrating me watching him be out of position and make mistakes.
But you can't possibly start those two together, considering offensively, and also Ayton is going to be worse guarding in space as a 4.
I guess I just like Rob Williams more than I like Ayton.
Well, that's fair. I think he's a better winning basketball player. I agree.
Ayton just frustrates me to no end, man.
Yes. You're preaching to the choir there, pal. But you know which number 1 pick doesn't frustrate me, Logan? Who just goes out there and balls out? Cade Cunningham, man. That's my final takeaway. When I tweeted my little mini takeaways from day 1, I shouted out the Pacers, the Magic, both of whom just destroyed a couple of the worst teams in the league. The Magic gave it to the Rockets, and the Pacers did the same to the Wizards. I think that Indiana offense is legitimately good. I think, again, Tyrese is a really good playmaker. They have athletic play finishers around him. Obi looked good. They have lots of shooting. They have good depth pieces. Nembhard, Nesmith, just lots of quality basketball players. And the Magic, I think that they have a really high defensive ceiling for how young they are, and they have enough offensive skill to be capable there. So I think that those are teams that are going to be, as hoped, certainly in the play-in. I think I had them in my 8 and 9 seed out east. That's where they should be. But I didn't mention Cade because I just didn't watch any of the Pistons Heat game in real time. Then I went back and rewatched it yesterday, or just watched it, I should say, and Cade was so impressive. He ran 27 pick and rolls in this game, Logan, which is just ridiculous. That already makes him one of the highest usage pick and roll primary ball handlers in basketball. And he's drawing multiple defenders on basically everyone because they just don't have really skilled offensive talent around him that needs to be respected. But he remained so composed in those situations, and his playmaking was really, really good. Hitting pocket passes, hitting skip passes, weaponizing that drive and kick game, passing out of traps. He was really good. He had this one unbelievable spot where he was being swarmed by two defenders and he just got over them both with this great hook pass that was on target to Durant. I think that this is a real offensive superstar down the line, not this year, but I do think he's an offensive star this year. And then as a scorer, his pace out of pick and roll is so excellent. I think he's going to be one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA. We've talked about it already on the volume. We've seen he's been quite good there, better than from three, where his numbers were disappointing as a rookie and in the limited sample size last year. But he just works his way to that mid-range area. He'll take a little contact, step back, and he's really good. And he was solid as a driver in this game. I do still think that exerting that high-end rim pressure is not going to be what he's best at. He's not that sort of crazy explosive athlete in terms of quickness or vertical ability. Good athlete, just not overwhelming. And he's going to be playing with a lot of packed paints, just given that they're doing these two big looks. They've got Asar Thompson out there a lot. There's not a ton of shooting out there, so I don't think he's going to be able to do the most in terms of finishing around the rim. But again, he hits that paint, and he's looking to create for his teammates, and he did a really good job of that. And overall, I was pleased with the Pistons, particularly Stewart and Durant, who really stand out as a front court in today's NBA. First of all, they're both really young doing this, so props to them. But they're huge, they're physical, and they're athletic. And then Stewart brings offensively the dimension of floor spacing. Durant defensively brings a bit more of that height and length and athleticism where he can protect the hell out of the rim. So those two dudes, I think they combined for 12 offensive rebounds in this game. Of course, the Heat are small, the Heat are unathletic, so those advantages are even exaggerated in that matchup, but very fun stuff from them. And then Asar, dude.
Yeah.
Just the athleticism, man. I mean, 5 blocks in this game, good God. Defensively, this team is ahead of schedule for a group this young, and I think that that is definitely going to be their strength. And then Cade is going to have to really carry the mantle offensively. I just worry about really everybody else around him. Jaden Ivey's coming off the bench in this one. He has a brutal game. Killian Hayes is starting as just a brutal shooter. Asar's shooting is a big question. Durant's shooting is a non-factor. Isaiah Stewart is okay as a floor spacer. He's not great. They don't have creation alongside him. Like, that's just my concern. Cade is going to be fighting an uphill battle all year offensively. I think he's going to do a good job. But I like some of what we saw from this core outside of him too, just because of that athleticism and that defense.
I really do like Cade too, Carson, and I don't know why. I mean, it seems like some of the NBA, fan bases seem to forget about Cade a little bit, or it's almost made him
nowadays.
Underrated.
Everybody want to talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move the lips. It's a bunch of gibberish. Now MFs act like they forgot about Cade.
That was a freaking bar, dude. I think you need to put that on the album.
That was original,
dude. I love Cade. I think he's become underrated at this point, man, just because he missed a year of basketball. And I don't want to take away too many things from this offense, too, because I think that, again, I think spacing is going to be hell all year. I think you're right. I think Cade's going to fight to make this offense okay. But I don't want people to draw conclusions if this is a poor offense because Cade's the leader. The spacing's abysmal, but I really like Cade, and I do think he's a future offensive superstar, too. And hey, man, if the Pistons are going to win grimy defensive games, more power to them, dude. I think they can dominate a lot of teams on the glass, and I think Cade can get them to reach a bare minimum ceiling where they can be competitive in games. It is going to be ugly at times, but I like Cade's ceiling. If they can develop some of this shooting around him, if they can get some more floor spacing, another guard, like, dude, literally anybody but Killian Hayes. Can we bring Luke Kennard back to Detroit? Like, just give him a guy who is spot up next to him. I think that would improve the offense a lot, but I like Cade a lot, and I think the Pistons are also going to be slightly better than I expected.
Killian Hayes starting
Sucks.
day one
sorry.
of year 4 in the NBA is actually one of the more mind-blowing things that I have seen in my lifetime.
James Harden, though. I think he's got a little bit of James Harden in him.
Well, Logan, I got to say, he's a crafty lefty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got some of those playmaking chops from him, some change in pace. Yeah. No,
Nice
I
little
see
floater
it.
game, yeah.
Oh, I see
Step
it.
back.
Oh, I see it. Oh, he loves that step back, Logan. Yeah, the Pistons aren't going to win a ton of games, but I think that they are treading in the right direction. They're going to compete. And also, when we talk about the defensive core, we got to talk about Cade himself. I mean, he's going to have to carry a heavy load offensively, so maybe he can't give his best defensively, but he has awesome tools there. We've seen some really good stuff from him. So that was an exciting debut, I thought. All right, there you have it, folks. NBA is back. I, for one, am so thrilled. Of course, there was football yesterday. We didn't talk about that. The Buffalo Bills just whelmed, as they've been doing. And they beat the Bucks. Woohoo, yippee. It's basketball season, baby. All right, when we have 15 awesome NBA games to talk about, we're going to focus on that. But we will, of course, be back to doing our normal NFL reaction stuff this Sunday. Going to do a healthy combination of the two, NBA and NFL now. So if you enjoyed this one, the good news is there is plenty more Nerd Sesh content. You can always find our shows on YouTube with video at the Volume YouTube page. You can also listen to the podcast across audio platforms. If you are and you want to give us a rate and review, all right, that'd be great. Thanks. I'd appreciate it. You can also follow us across social, Instagram and TikTok at Nerd Sesh, Twitter at Nerd_Sesh. You can check out our merch at thevolume.com. Link to that is also in our link tree. We've got hats, we've got shirts, we've got hoodies, we've got the flags behind us, and you can join our Discord at the link in our link tree across our social media bios if you just want to be part of our community, talk football, basketball, etc. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. I've been Carson Brever.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.